The shuttle docked with the flagship of the first human fleet. When the doors opened, Taiho stepped out into a corridor filled with soldiers standing at attention. They saluted him with respect and admiration, their eyes shining with emotion. Waiting for him at the end of the corridor was his family. Yuna stood tall and straight, her admiral's uniform perfect, but her eyes were wet with tears she refused to let fall. Minho stood beside her, his calm face showing small cracks of relief. And Hanayoung, fierce Hana, broke formation and ran toward her grandfather. She crashed into him with a hug so strong that Taiho almost fell over. He laughed and wrapped his arms around her, feeling her body shake with sobs. "I thought we lost you," Hana whispered into his chest. "When I heard the song, my heart stopped." Taiho stroked her hair gently. "You did not lose me, little star. You found me, just like I knew you would." Yuna walked forward slowly. She stopped in front of her father and looked at him with eyes that held a mixture of love, anger, and relief. "You scared us," she said, her voice tight. "I know. I am sorry. You are 78 years old. You were supposed to be safe on that colony, growing vegetables and staying out of trouble." Taiho smiled. "Trouble found me, daughter. It usually does." Yuna's hard expression finally broke. She stepped forward and hugged her father, holding him close like she had when she was a little girl. "Do not ever do this again," she said. "I will try my best." Minho approached and placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "The colony has been secured. We sent a fleet to protect it. The surviving colonists are being cared for." Taiho nodded gratefully. "Good. They were innocent people caught in a bad situation. The Voron will not attack there again," Minho said. "They will not attack anywhere near human space for a very long time." The family began walking together toward the bridge of the flagship. Soldiers and officers stepped aside, bowing their heads in respect. Taiho walked among his children and grandchild, feeling the warmth of their love surrounding him on the bridge. Screens showed images from across the galaxy, human ships patrolling borders, human colonies glowing with light, human families living their lives in peace. 400 ships, Taiho said quietly. "You brought 400 ships for one old man." Yuna stood at the command console. "We would have brought 4,000 if necessary, or 40,000. However many it took. That is the lesson we want the galaxy to learn," Minho added. "The Voron think in terms of military value. They see numbers and calculate odds. But humans do not work that way." Hana wiped her eyes and stood beside her grandfather. "We do not ask how important someone is. We ask if they are one of ours. And if they are, we come for them. All of us. Every time." Taiho looked at his family with pride. They had grown into such strong, capable people. Yuna had her mother's fierce spirit. Minho had his grandmother's calm wisdom. Hana had the fire that Taiho himself had carried in his youth. "The Voron commander will deliver our message," Taiho said. "But I wonder if his emperor will understand." "It does not matter if he understands," Yuna said. "What matters is that he fears. Fear keeps peace when understanding fails." Taiho sighed and walked to a window that looked out into space. Stars sparkled in the darkness, each one representing millions of possibilities, worlds waiting to be discovered, species waiting to be met, futures waiting to be written. "I have seen too many wars," Taiho said. "When I was young, I believed that strength meant destroying your enemies. I burned worlds and celebrated victories. But as I grew older, I learned that true strength is not about destruction. It is about protection." He turned to face his family. Despite his wrinkled face and white hair, there was power in his eyes, the same power that had made him a legend. "We showed the Voron our teeth today. We showed them that humans are not prey. But we also showed them mercy. We let them live, let them return home with their ship and their lives. That mercy is as important as our strength. Why, grandfather? Hannah asked. Because fear alone creates enemies. Fear mixed with respect creates possibility. The Varan will tell stories about today. They will warn their children about the humans who came out of the darkness with 400 ships. But they will also remember that we did not destroy them when we could have. Minho nodded slowly. You want them to think twice before attacking. Not just because they fear our power, but because they wonder if peace might be better. Exactly, Taiho said. War is easy. Peace is hard. But peace is worth the effort. Yuna looked at her father with new understanding. Even after all these years, he was still teaching them. What would you have us do now? She asked. Taiho smiled warmly. Take me home. Not to that colony. That chapter of my life is finished. Take me to Earth. I want to see the oceans again, feel the wind on my face, walk in the forests where I played as a child. And then I will rest. I have earned it, I think. I will sit in my garden and watch my great-grandchildren grow. I will tell them stories about the stars and teach them the song that saved my life. Hana laughed through her tears. I am not ready for great-grandchildren yet, grandfather. Then hurry up, Taiho said with a wink. I am not getting any younger. The family laughed together, the tension of the past days finally breaking. They were whole again, safe again, together again. And that was all that mattered. As the flagship turned toward Earth, Taiho took one last look at the stars. Somewhere out there, Commander Keth was racing back to Voran space, carrying a message that would change the galaxy. Taiho hoped it would be enough. He hoped that the Varan would choose peace, that other species would learn from this example, that the future would be brighter than the past. But if not, if any species ever threatened humanity again, Taiho knew what would happen. His children would answer. His grandchildren would fight. The fire would burn again. That was the warning the galaxy could not ignore. Touch one human, and you touch them all. Harm one family, and you face the rage of an entire species. Humans had spread across the stars not to conquer, but to live. They built homes, raised children, and dreamed of a better tomorrow. They seemed soft and gentle compared to warrior races like the Varan. But beneath that soft exterior was something ancient and unbreakable, a love so fierce that it could cross galaxies. A bond so strong that it could summon fleets. The Varan had learned this lesson today. Others would learn it tomorrow. And in his small corner of the galaxy, an old man named Taiho finally closed his eyes and let himself rest. He was surrounded by his family, protected by their love, carried home by their strength. He had delivered his thread, and the galaxy had listened. Now, at last, he could find peace. The stars continued to burn in the darkness, eternal and bright. And among them, humanity continued its quiet existence, watching, waiting, and always ready to protect what they loved most. This was the warning that would echo through history. Humans are not to be touched. Not today. Not ever. Because when you strike at one human, you strike at the entire species. And humanity never forgets. The story of Admiral Kin Taiho would be told for generations, passed down from parent to child, from teacher to student. It would become a legend, the tale of an old man who stood alone against an empire and summoned his family from across the stars. And in that legend was a truth that all species would come to understand. Humans are dangerous not because of their weapons or their ships, but because of their love. In the end, that love was the most powerful force in the universe, and the galaxy finally knew it. The alarm on the Varan warship screamed through every corridor. Red lights flashed on the walls. Crew members ran to their stations, their faces filled with terror. Commander Keth stood on the bridge, staring at the main screen. His 4 eyes could not believe what they were seeing. Ships, human ships. Hundreds of them, appearing from hyperspace like ghosts coming out of the darkness. They surrounded the Varn warship in a perfect circle, blocking every possible escape route. "Commander!" an officer shouted. 300 human vessels have surrounded us. We are completely trapped. Keth felt his legs grow weak. 300 ships. His single warship against 300. There was no hope for victory, no chance of escape. They were dead already. They just had not stopped breathing yet. How is this possible? Keth whispered. How did they get here so fast? On the screen, the human ships moved closer. They were beautiful in a terrible way, sleek and silver, with weapons that glowed with blue energy. Each ship was like a knife pointed at the heart of the Varn vessel. A communication signal beeped on the console. "They are requesting to speak with you." "Commander," an officer said in a shaky voice. "Put them through." The screen changed to show a human woman. She had sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back tightly. Her face was hard, like it had been carved from stone. Behind her, Keth could see the bridge of a massive human warship. "I am Admiral Kim Yuna of the 1st Human Fleet," the woman said. Her voice was cold and controlled. "You have something that belongs to me." Keth swallowed hard. "Admiral Kim, I have your father in custody." "I know exactly where my father is," Yuna said. "I also know what you did to the colony. You killed 12 humans and captured 43 others, including my father. You thought this would be a simple raid, a way to show human weakness. You were wrong. Admiral, please understand. I am not finished speaking." Yuna's voice cut through his words like a blade. The Varn have been testing human patience for decades. Small attacks, border violations, slave raids. We have tolerated these insults because we value peace. But you made a mistake, Commander. You took someone who matters. Another signal appeared on the screen. A second face joined the communication, a human man with a calm expression and tired eyes. "Commander Keth," the man said. "I am Admiral Kim Minho of the 2nd Human Fleet. I have just arrived with my ships. Together with my sister's fleet, we now have you surrounded by 400 vessels." Keth felt the blood drain from his face. 400 ships now. The numbers kept growing. "Your father spoke of you both," Keth managed to say. "He said you would come." Minho nodded. "Our father taught us many things, Commander. One of the most important lessons was this: family is everything. When one of us calls for help, all of us answer. It does not matter how far we must travel or how dangerous the enemy might be. We come." "He sent a message," Keth said. "A song." We did not understand. Yuna's eyes narrowed. "The lullaby our mother used to sing. When my father sings those words, it means his life is in danger. We have been preparing for this day since he retired. Every ship in the human fleet knows that if that song is ever broadcast, they must respond immediately." Keth looked around at his crew. They were frozen with fear, their weapons useless against the overwhelming force outside. Some of them were praying to Vorin gods. Others were simply staring at the screens, waiting for death. "What do you want?" Keth asked. "We want our father," Yuna said. "We want the other prisoners. And we want you to understand something very important." "What is that?" "Humans do not start wars, Commander. We did not conquer your territory. We did not attack your colonies. We stayed in our own space and lived in peace. But when someone threatens our family, we end wars. Quickly and completely." A third signal appeared. This time, a young woman's face appeared on the screen. She was younger than the others, with fierce eyes and a pilot's uniform. "Grandfather?" she said, her voice breaking slightly. "Are you there?" "It is Hannah." Keth heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see guards bringing Taiho onto the bridge. The old man walked slowly, his chains removed. When he saw the screen, His face changed. The calm mask fell away, replaced by something warm and loving. "Hannah," Taiho said softly. "My little star." "You came." "Of course I came," Hannah said, tears streaming down her face. "The whole family came. Mother is going to yell at you for getting captured. She says you are too old for adventures." Taiho laughed, a real laugh that filled the bridge with unexpected warmth. "Your mother is probably right, but I'm not dead yet, and I still have a few lessons to teach." Yuna's voice came through the speakers again. "Father, are you injured?" "No, my daughter." The commander was curious but not cruel. "He did not hurt me." Minho spoke next. "Father, give the word and we will destroy this ship." Taiho shook his head. "No, Minho, there has been enough death. The commander made mistakes, but he is not evil. He was doing what he was taught to do." Taiho looked at Keth. "Today, he will learn a different lesson." Keth stood straighter, trying to find what remained of his pride. "What lesson is that, Admiral?" Taiho walked closer to him. Despite his age and his frail body, there was power in his presence, the power of a man who had commanded fleets and won wars. "The lesson is this, Commander. Humans look weak because we choose to look weak. We do not parade our strength. We do not threaten other species. We build our homes, raise our families, and dream our dreams. But beneath that peaceful surface is something that the galaxy has never truly seen. And what is that?" "Fire," Taiho said simply. "A fire that burns for everyone we love. When you touch a human, you do not touch one person. You touch their mother, their father, their children, their friends. You touch every human who ever lived and every human who ever will live. We are all connected by something stronger than blood or duty. We are connected by love." Keth stared at the old man. For the first time in his life, he truly understood why the Varan had never been able to conquer humanity. It was not their ships or their weapons. It was their hearts. "Release the prisoners," Keth ordered quietly. All of them, immediately. His officers rushed to obey. Within minutes, the human prisoners were being brought to the shuttle bay, ready to be transferred to the waiting fleet. On the screen, Yuna spoke again. "Commander Keth, you have shown wisdom today. We will not destroy your ship, but you will carry a message back to the Varan Empire." "What message?" "Tell your emperor what happened here. Tell him about the 400 ships that came for one old man. Tell him that if the Varan ever threaten humanity again, we will not stop at 400 ships. We will bring every vessel we have. We will not rest until the threat is ended." Keth nodded slowly. "I will deliver your message, Admiral." Taiho walked toward the shuttle bay, escorted by his guards. At the door, he stopped and looked back at Keth one last time. "Thank you for the conversation, Commander. I hope we never meet again." Then he was gone, walking toward his family, toward safety, toward home. Keth watched the human shuttle leave his ship and join the massive fleet outside. One by one, the human ships began to disappear back into hyperspace, carrying their precious cargo away. When the last ship vanished, Keth stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by his terrified crew. The universe felt different, now larger, more dangerous, and filled with humans who would cross the stars for the people they loved. He had a message to deliver, and he knew the Emperor would not like it. But the truth was the truth, and it could not be ignored that the humans were not to be touched ever again. 3 days passed on the Varan warship. The other human prisoners had been moved to the lower decks, where they would be prepared for sale at the slave markets. But the old man called Taiho remained in his cell, alone. Commander Keth could not stop thinking about him. Every night, when he tried to sleep, he saw those calm eyes in his mind. Every morning, when he woke up, his first thought was about the strange human who smiled in the face of death. Finally, Keth decided to get answers. He ordered his soldiers to bring the old man to the interrogation room. The room was gray and cold, with bright lights on the ceiling and metal chairs bolted to the floor. Taiho was brought in with chains on his hands and feet. 2 large Voran guards stood behind him, ready to use force if needed. Keth sat across from the old man, a table between them. On the table were tools, sharp, painful things that the Voran used to break their prisoners. Taiho looked at the tools with interest, like a scientist studying a new experiment. "Do you know what those are?" Keth asked. "I can guess," Taiho replied. "They are for torture. The Voran are famous for their methods." "Then you know what will happen if you do not answer my questions." Taiho nodded slowly. "I know, but pain is just pain, Commander. I have felt it many times in my life. You will find that old men have already suffered enough to fear nothing." Keth leaned forward. "We will see about that. Now, tell me who really you are." "I told you. I'm just a grandfather. I grew vegetables on that colony. I read stories to the children. I watched the stars at night and remembered old times." "You lie," Keth said. "No simple farmer has eyes like yours. No gardener sits so calmly in a Voran prison. Tell me the truth." Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke in a soft voice. "Do you know why humanity stopped expanding, Commander?" Keth was confused by the question. "What?" 50 years ago, humans were spreading across the galaxy at an amazing speed. We built colonies everywhere. We explored new systems every month. But then we stopped. We pulled back to our core worlds and stayed there. Do you know why? Keth had never thought about this before. It was true that human expansion had suddenly stopped many years ago. The Voran had assumed it was because humans had reached their limit, that they were too weak to continue growing. "You ran out of resources," Keth said. "Your technology could not support more growth." Taiho laughed softly. It was not a mocking laugh, but a sad one. "No, Commander. We had more resources than we could ever use. Our technology was advancing faster than ever. We stopped because we chose to stop. Why? Because we learned something important. We learned that the galaxy is full of species like yours, species that see expansion as a threat, that attack anyone who grows too strong. So we decided to do something different. We stopped growing outward and started growing inward." Keth did not understand. "What does that mean?" "It means we focused on making our people stronger, not our territory bigger. We trained our soldiers better. We built better ships. We developed weapons that the galaxy has never seen. We prepared. Prepared for what?" Taiho's eyes grew cold. "For the day when someone would give us a reason to use everything we had built." A chill ran down Keth's spine. There was something in the old man's voice that made him believe every word. "You are trying to scare me," Keth said. "But I am not afraid of human threats. The Voran have crushed 100 species. Humans will be no different." Taiho sighed. "Commander, let me tell you about my family. My daughter, Yuna, is 52 years old. She commands the first human fleet, 200 warships that patrol the border between human space and the rest of the galaxy. My son Minho is 48. He leads the second fleet, another 200 ships that protect our inner colonies." Keth felt his throat tighten. "You expect me to believe that your children command human fleets?" "I do not expect anything, Commander. I am just telling you facts. My granddaughter, Hana, is 25. She is a fighter pilot, one of the best in her generation. She flies missions near this very sector." Taiho paused. "She has probably already noticed that I am missing." Keth stood up and slammed his hands on the table. "Enough! You are lying to save yourself. There is no way an old farmer has such powerful connections." Taiho looked up at him with patient eyes. 40 years ago, I was Admiral Kim Taiho of the United Human Navy. I led the fleet that defended Earth during the Krath invasion. I planned the strategy that destroyed the Krath homeworld. When I retired, the Navy gave me the highest honor a human soldier can receive." Keth's 4 eyes went wide. He had heard of the Krath, a fierce warrior race that had tried to attack human space decades ago. They had been completely destroyed, their planet turned to ash. No one knew how the humans had done it, but the message was clear: do not attack Earth. "After I retired," Taiho continued, "I wanted peace. I moved to a quiet colony where I could garden and watch the stars. I thought my fighting days were over." He smiled sadly. "But it seems the universe had other plans." Keth took a step back. His mind was racing. If this old man was telling the truth, then the Varn had just captured one of the most important humans in history. This was not a random raid anymore. This was an act of war. "You could be lying," Keth said, but his voice was weak. "I could be," Taiho agreed. "But you do not believe that, do you, Commander? You can see it in my eyes. You can feel it in your bones. You know that I am telling the truth." Keth was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "What do you want?" "I want to send one message to my people. One short transmission. That is all I ask. And why would I allow that?" Taiho's smile returned. "Because, Commander, that message might be the only thing that saves your ship. If my family comes looking for me without warning, they will destroy everything in their path. But if I send a message, I can tell them to show mercy. The choice is yours." Keth stared at the old man for a long moment. Every instinct told him that this was a trap, that allowing the message would be a mistake. But another part of him, a small frightened part, wondered if refusing would be an even bigger mistake. "I will think about it," Keth said at last. Taiho nodded. "Do not think too long, Commander. Time is not on your side." The guards took Taiho back to his cell. Keth stood alone in the interrogation room, his hands shaking. He had wanted to break the old man, to find his secrets and use them against humanity. Instead, he felt like he was the one who had been broken. He looked at the torture tools on the table. They seemed useless now, like toys for children. How do you torture a man who has already seen everything? How do you threaten someone who commands the loyalty of fleets? Keth made his decision. He would allow the message. It was probably a mistake, but the alternative was worse. If the old man was telling the truth, then the Varn ship was in terrible danger. And deep in his heart, Keth knew that the old man was not lying. The galaxy was about to change. And Commander Keth was standing right in the middle of the storm. The communication room of the Varn warship was filled with equipment screens, buttons, and strange devices that blinked with colored lights. Commander Keth stood in the corner, watching carefully. His officers surrounded the room, their weapons ready. They did not trust the old human, but they had agreed to let him send his message. Taiho sat in a chair in front of the main screen. His chains had been removed, but 2 guards stood close behind him. The old man looked at the equipment with calm interest, like he was remembering something from long ago. "You may send one message," Keth said. "It must be short, no more than 30 seconds. We will monitor every word. If you try to send any military codes or secret information, we will stop the transmission and you will be executed immediately." Taiho nodded. "I understand, Commander. I only want to speak to my family. Nothing more." One of the Varn officers turned on the communication system. The screen lit up with static, then cleared to show a connection waiting to be made. "The channel is open," the officer said. "You may speak." Taiho took a deep breath. For a moment, his eyes seemed far away, like he was looking at something only he could see. Then he leaned forward and spoke in Korean, his native language. The words were soft and musical, almost like a song. He spoke only 3 phrases, each one gentle and simple. Then he stopped and sat back in his chair. That is all, he said. Keth frowned. What did you say? Translate it. The Voran translators worked quickly, analyzing the sounds and searching for meaning. After a few seconds, one of the officers looked up with a confused expression. Commander, the message appears to be a lullaby. A lullaby? Yes, sir. The words are from an old Korean children's song. Something about stars and sleep. There is no military content, no coordinates, no codes. Just a grandmother's song. Keth turned to Taiho. You wasted your one message on a children's song. Taiho smiled. It is a very special song, Commander. My wife used to sing it to our children when they were small. After she died, I sang it to my grandchildren. Every member of my family knows that song. And what good does that do you? The song has a hidden meaning. When I sing those words in that order, it means one thing. I'm in danger, and I need help. Keth felt his stomach drop. You tricked us. I did not lie, Commander. You asked me to send a message to my family. That is exactly what I did. You scanned the words for military codes, but there were none. The code is in the song itself, a code that only my family understands. Keth grabbed Taiho by the collar and pulled him up. Where did you send that message? Who received it? Taiho did not struggle. He remained calm even as Keth's claws pressed against his neck. The message was sent to a relay station near the border. From there, it will spread to every ship in the human fleet. Within hours, every human captain will know that Admiral Kim Taiho has been captured by the Voran. Admiral. Keth's voice was barely a whisper. You really are who you say you are. I told you the truth from the beginning, Commander. You simply did not want to believe it. Keth released the old man and stepped back. His mind was spinning with fear and confusion. He had allowed the message because he thought it was harmless. He had been fooled by a children's song. How long? Keth asked. How long before your people come? Taiho sat back down and rubbed his neck. My daughter Yuna is the fastest to respond. She does not wait. She does not plan. She simply acts. If she is near the border, her fleet could be here in 6 hours. My son Minho is more careful. He will gather information first, then move. He might take 12 hours, maybe longer. And your granddaughter? Taiho's eyes softened. Hannah is young and impulsive. She loves her grandfather very much. When she hears the song, she will not wait for orders. She will come immediately, alone if necessary. Keth turned to his officers. Set course for Voran space. Maximum speed. We need to reach friendly territory before the humans arrive. Commander, one officer said, at maximum speed. We can reach the border in 8 hours. That is not fast enough. Keth looked at Taiho. Your daughter could catch us before we get there. Taiho nodded. Yes, she could. Yuna was always very fast. Keth began pacing the room, his claws clicking against the metal floor. He had made a terrible error. He should have killed the old man immediately. He should have ignored his curiosity and treated this prisoner like any other. But now it was too late. Why are you telling me all this? Keth suddenly asked. Why warn me about what is coming? Taiho looked at him with something like pity. Because I do not want unnecessary death, Commander. Not yours, not your crew's, not anyone's. I have seen enough war to last 1,000 lifetimes. I was hoping for peace in my final years. Then call off your family. Send another message. Tell them it was a mistake. Taiho shook his head. I cannot do that. The song has been sung. My family is already moving. Nothing can stop them now. Keth felt trapped. He was a commander of the mighty Voran Empire, yet he was being controlled by an old human with white hair and wrinkled hands. It was humiliating. What would you do in my position? Keth asked quietly. Taeho thought for a moment. If I were you, I would release the human prisoners and change course toward neutral space. When my daughter arrives, I would surrender immediately and ask for mercy. Yuna is fierce, but she is fair. If you show that you mean no harm, she might let you live. Surrender to humans? The Varan do not surrender. Then the Varan will die, Taiho said simply. The choice has always been yours, Commander. Keth stood in silence, feeling the weight of the universe pressing down on him. His whole life, he had believed that the Varan were the masters of the galaxy. He had been taught that other species were weak, that they existed only to serve or be destroyed. But now, looking at this frail old human, he began to wonder if everything he believed was wrong. The hours passed slowly. The Varan ship pushed its engines to the limit, racing towards safety. But safety seemed very far away. Taiho was returned to his cell, but things had changed. The guards no longer looked at him with disgust. Instead, they looked at him with fear. Word had spread through the ship about who he was, about what his family would do. In his cell, Taiho closed his eyes and thought about his wife. She had been gone for 15 years now, but he still remembered her voice, her smile, her warmth. She had always believed in peace, in the goodness of all beings. What would she think of him now, about to bring war to another species? But Taiho also thought about his children, his grandchildren, and all the humans who lived among the stars. They deserved to be safe. They deserved to know that if they were ever captured or hurt, their people would come for them. That was what it meant to be human. No one was ever left behind. Outside the ship, in the vast darkness of space, something was moving. Ships were changing course. Engines were firing. Weapons were being loaded. The song had been heard, and the singers were coming. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. The full fury of a human family protecting one of their own. And at the center of it all, an old man sat quietly in his cell, waiting for his children to bring him home. The Voran warship moved through the darkness of space like a hunter searching for prey. Its black metal body blocked the light of distant stars as it traveled toward the small human colony on the edge of known space. Commander Keth stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes watching the screens with cold interest. The Varan had ruled this part of the galaxy for 1,000 years. They were tall, gray-skinned beings with sharp teeth and a deep hatred for any species that dared to grow strong. Humans were new to the stars. They had only been traveling through space for 300 years. The Varan saw them as children playing in a world they did not understand. But these children were growing fast, and the Varan Empire did not like what they saw. "Commander," said one of the officers, "we are approaching the human settlement. It is a small farming colony. No military ships detected." Keth smiled, showing his pointed teeth. "Good. We take what we want and leave. Let the humans know that the Varan still control these borders." The raid was quick and brutal. Varan soldiers landed on the colony and took supplies, equipment, and prisoners. The humans fought back with farming tools and old weapons, but they were no match for the Varan technology. In less than an hour, the attack was over. Among the prisoners was an old man. He had white hair and deep wrinkles on his face. His body was thin and bent with age. The Varan soldiers pushed him into the transport ship with the others, not paying much attention to him. He was just another weak human, probably a farmer or a teacher. The old man's name was Taiho. He was 78 years old, and he had lived on this colony for only 2 years. Before that, he had lived a very different life, but the Varan did not know this. They did not bother to scan his identity or check his history. To them, he was nothing. On the Varan warship, the prisoners were taken to holding cells deep inside the ship. The cells were cold and dark, with metal walls and hard floors. The other prisoners cried and shouted, begging for mercy or cursing their captors. But Taiho sat quietly in the corner of his cell. His eyes were calm, and there was a small smile on his lips. A young Voran guard walked past the cells, looking at the prisoners with disgust. He stopped when he saw the old human sitting so peacefully. "Why do you smile, human?" the guard asked. "Do you not understand what is happening?" Do you not understand what is happening? You are a prisoner of the Voran Empire. You will be sold as a slave or killed for sport. Taiho looked up at the guard. His eyes were sharp, not like the eyes of a scared old man. "I understand perfectly," he said in a soft voice. "I am just thinking about how this will end." The guard laughed. "It will end with your death, old one. That is how it always ends for humans who cross the Voran." Taiho nodded slowly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps not. Time will tell." The guard did not like the old man's confidence. He hit the cell bars with his weapon and walked away, muttering angry words in his own language. Hours passed. The warship left the colony and began its journey back to Voran space. Commander Keth reviewed the list of captured prisoners and stolen goods. It was a successful raid, nothing more. He did not expect any problems, but one of his officers came to him with a strange report. "Commander, there is an old human in the cells. He is not like the others. He does not cry or beg. He just sits and smiles." Some of the guards are uncomfortable. Keth raised one of his eyebrows. "Uncomfortable? Because of an old human?" "Yes, Commander. There is something about him. The way he looks at us. It is like he knows something we do not." Keth was curious now. He decided to see this strange human for himself. He walked down to the holding cells, his heavy boots making loud sounds on the metal floor. When he reached Taiho's cell, he stopped and looked at the old man. Taiho was sitting cross-legged on the floor, his hands resting on his knees. He looked up at the commander and nodded politely, as if they were meeting at a social event and not in a prison cell. "You are the commander of this ship?" Taiho asked. Keth was surprised that the human spoke first. Prisoners usually waited for permission to talk. "I am Commander Keth of the Voran Imperial Fleet, and you are my prisoner." "Yes, I am," Taiho agreed. "For now." Keth stepped closer to the cell bars. "What does that mean, human? Do you think someone will rescue you? Your people do not even know you are here." Taiho smiled again, that same calm, knowing smile. "My people always know where I am, Commander. That is something you will learn soon." Keth studied the old man carefully. There was no fear in his eyes, no desperation in his voice. This was not normal. Keth had captured hundreds of humans over the years, and they all reacted the same way with fear, anger, or tears. But this one was different. "Who are you?" Keth asked. "Just an old man," Taiho replied. "A grandfather who likes to garden and read books. Nothing special." Keth did not believe him. There was something hidden behind those calm eyes, something dangerous. He could feel it in his bones. "We will find out the truth," Keth said. "The Voran have ways of making prisoners talk." Taiho nodded. "I am sure you do. But I wonder, Commander, if you are ready to hear what I have to say." Keth turned and walked away, his mind troubled. He had captured an old human farmer, nothing more. So why did he feel like he had just made a terrible mistake? Back in his cell, Taiho closed his eyes and let out a long breath. His body was old and weak, but his mind was still sharp. He thought about his family, his daughter Yuna, his son Minho, his granddaughter Hana. They were out there somewhere among the stars, doing their duty. The Voran thought they had captured a helpless old man. They did not know that they had captured one of the most important people in human history. They did not know about his past, his rank, his connections, but they would learn. Very soon, they would learn. Taiho opened his eyes and looked at the metal ceiling of his cell. "I hope you are ready, Commander Keth," he whispered to himself, "because my family does not forgive, and they do not forget." The ship continued its journey through the cold darkness of space, carrying its prisoner toward Voran territory. And somewhere, far away, a signal was already traveling through the void, carrying a message that would change everything. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were not to be touched.